morning, everyone. Welcome to yet another episode of Health Discourse with Sakshi and Sushant. So, hi, Sushant. Good morning.
Good morning.
Hope you're doing well today.
Yeah, very well.
Great. So, folks, on the occasion of upcoming World Heart Day, this is a special podcast as we had announced on all our social media channels. So, Sushant, let us begin the discussion. And this discussion is focused on breaking all the myths related to heart health today, right? So, a lot of people think that, measuring triglyceride levels is the way to decode heart health, right? Though we have already discussed in our previous discussions that cholesterol is not one of the aspects which should be measured only for the sake of understanding the risk behind heart and cardiovascular diseases. So Sushant, please shed some light on what should be the ideal measurables for understanding whether a person has a risk of heart disease or not.
Okay, so I would like to start with a very strong statement here, that
Hmm.
cholesterol does not cause heart disease,
We
right?
have said it many times. Yes.
Yeah. And this is especially for World Heart Day. So I have seen everyone, including doctors and cardiologists also, telling people to suppress cholesterol because they are telling that cholesterol is going to make you develop heart issues. Or we have seen advertisement, lot of these food sold in supermarkets are plastered and coined as foods which can lower cholesterol. We don't need to lower your cholesterol. We need to optimize it, right?
Just
And
uh, just the way they say low cholesterol, zero cholesterol butter and all those
yeah,
products. That is what you're
see,
mentioning. Okay.
so understand, there is no life without cholesterol. Let us discuss basic science behind cholesterol first before we get into the the markers or the molecular signature, which is an indication for movement towards heart disease, right? So first of all, cholesterol is a lipid, right? It is required for various cellular processes. Uh, it is a part, so our cell membrane cells is made up of lipids, fats, and cholesterol, right? Healthy fats and lipids and cholesterol, and again, cholesterol is required for maintaining the cell structure, integrity, and fluidity for the cell membranes, right? So it helps to for facilitating the intracellular signaling, right? So it can contribute to play the key role in production of nitric oxide, mitochondrial biogenesis, a number of these cellular processes. And we all know that functional loss of nitric oxide production is the underlying cause for cardiovascular disease, for diabetes, for sexual dysfunction, for Alzheimer's, for dementia, a number of things, right? Uh, Third thing is that it is a precursor for production of vitamin D, bile acid, regulation of sex hormones, let's say testosterone, estrogen, progesterone, right? And it also plays a key role in transportation of certain molecules from or to into cells, such as potassium and ions, which are required for regulating transmembrane potential, for maintaining the the electric potential of our cells, right? So there are number of things cholesterol does. Our cell needs cholesterol, various cellular processes. Our brain is 80% made of fat and cholesterol, right? So there is no reason for anyone to say cholesterol is a reason for heart disease. It is not. People who are, you know, spreading this word do not understand anything about human biology. They are bullshitting the things, right? Uh, so let us further demystify this, right? So I'll just quickly in 3 to 4 minutes share the biochemistry behind the role of cholesterol and what happens. Why people are talking of LDL and HDL, and people are talking of apoprotein A, apoprotein B, APOA, APOB, 100 APOA1, right? So again, these are people are saying check your ApoB 100 apolipoprotein, and what exactly are they, and why they should checking them is not going to help much, right? So cholesterol 30% we get from the food, 70% our body makes it in the liver and the intestine, right? And then uh, what happens is that our cells, cholesterol is synthesized by every cell needs cholesterol for various cellular processes, right? Some cells have less than what they need for performing their task, and they borrow it from other cells and tissues. So some cells are net exporters, some cells are net importer of the cholesterol, right? So, so there is a transport of cholesterol from one tissue to other, from liver to other, maybe heart and other places, right? Which makes sure that the cells, all the cellular functions are being performed accurately, and it is your body is in homeostasis, right? But the complex part is that our body has a lot of water flowing, right? And uh, cholesterol is not soluble in water, right? So there has to be a transport medium. So here it is packaged with a particular protein called lipoprotein, and right, and what most of the people think, and protein part of this called apolipoprotein. So that's what people measure. So apolipoprotein, as I mentioned, ApoA1, ApoB 100, right? And again, ApoB 100 is an outer shell for this cholesterol, which transports it, right? And again, for flowing and for transporting it, it is packaged with. So you need to for flowing from anything. I think basic physics, right? So you need lower density, right? So again, it is packaged with very low density lipoprotein and low density lipoprotein, VLD and LDL, right? So it is what transports the cholesterol from liver to different cells. Now, cell uses it, performs various cellular processes, and sends back the excess cholesterol, right, to liver, right? And again, liver and intestine synthesize ApoA1, right, which contains 70% of the protein of HDL, right? So it is released in the bloodstream. It goes interact with various peripheral tissues, including heart, and through this cholesterol and some lipids get into ApoA1, right? And again, it goes to liver, right, and where it is uh, sent to other cells for various processes, or used for production of bile acid or vitamin D or sex hormones or brain or whatever it is, right? So this is a normal way of the how the cholesterol flows into the body. So now you're talking of ApoB 100 or ApoA1, right? You're measuring ApoB 100, right? What would you do after ApoB 100, right? So what causes this overexpression of ApoB 100, which is or LDL, right, or a lot of VLDL, right? Or what causes the underexpression of ApoA1, or maybe low HDL level? Let us discuss each one of these things, right? So again, and triglycerides also. So triglycerides again is something which is a lipid in your blood, and again, it is linked to a lot of eating a lot of sugary foods and high fat, and which leads to a high level of fat, or probably because of you know uh, suboptimal bile acid metabolism, right, could also be a reason for high triglyceride levels, right? So again, here is a role of gut and oral microbiome both, right, in terms of regulating your cholesterol levels, your ApoA1 and ApoB 100, right, and LDL and HDL, right, and again, nitric oxide, as I had discussed, I'll be touching on nitric oxide uh, in detail, right? So again, what exactly is nitric oxide? We have done a lot of talks on this, but basically, it's a gas produced inside our body every second, goes in every second, right? It is a vasodilator, it regulates your blood flow, it dilates your blood vessels of sex organs of heart and everywhere, right? So if you really, it is a neurotransmitter. It helps in various neurotransmitter activities, right? So it impacts your brain. It improves your blood flow to every cell, tissue, and organ, right? So without blood flow, we cannot survive, right? So if there's lack of blood flow, you will have all sort of disease. So there's no blood flow in the brain, you will have dementia. If no blood flow in the heart, you will have heart issues. No blood flow in the sex organs, you will have sexual dysfunction, erectile dysfunction, right? So again, nitric oxide plays a very, very, very important role, right? Again, it's a vasodilator. It regulates your blood flow. It's a lot of these functions, and that's why it regulates your blood pressure. It has a role. It prevents the fat deposition. It prevents the lipid transport. It prevents the plaque deposition, right? Which is plaque deposition, which is again one of the key factors for cardiovascular disease, right? So essentially, nitric oxide plays a very key role, and again, we know that nitric oxide is produced by two pathways, which is endothelial nitric oxide synthase, which is again an enzyme which is expressed by immune system. It binds to endothelial cell. It produces, uh, you know, nitric oxide in presence of L-arginine, right? And it converts into nitric oxide and citrulline again. So again, there is a five steps oxidation of this, right, which causes and again, so again, L-arginine is a semi-essential amino acid, right? And we will not get into too much detail. We will share the link of the video where we discuss about L-arginine, right? So again, the fact of the matter is that one way is we need to have a constant production of oxide. Second, then the most important pathway is the oral microbiome, where microbes in the mouth, metabolize nitrate into nitrite, which goes and protonates into stomach acid produce nitric oxide, right? So people who are on antacids, right, have a high risk of cardiovascular disease because it suppresses your nitric oxide production. It leads to overexpression of ADMA, SMR dimethyl arginine, which inhibits the nitric oxide production, right? So again, nitric oxide is functional loss of nitric oxide is the root cause of cardiovascular disease, right? This is one of the important factors. So cholesterol, as explained, does not cause heart disease. It's all bullshit, right? You are spread wasting your money. You are falling for wrong things here. Right? So again, nitric oxide, high level nitric oxide suppresses your triglyceride level, which is again another key factor for your heart disease. So it prevents fat deposition, as I shared. So essentially, it prevents fat deposit, prevents plaque deposition, plaque rupture, and so it prevents heart disease, right? Uh, there are multiple other factors which you know uh, can cause heart disease, right? Before we get into the gut microbiome metabolites, I want to talk about few of these things, right? And even statin, right? So before that, if you have any questions on this.
So I think that was you are already hopping on to my next question because that is what I just had to ask you. That Sushant, that why do people trust these drugs like statins rather than focusing on the you know internal medicine, which is through nutrition that we can resolve? Because the
Mm,
internalized problems that we have inside our body
mm,
because of the dysregulation of a lot of metabolites and a lot of
mm,
certain factors.
mm,
Why
mm.
is it that the people they believe so much in taking a pill rather than focusing on their nutrition? Why is it that? Is it because of the advertising, or what exactly it is, or is it
So
about a
let us
misinformation spreading around?
let us go back in 1950s and 60s, right? So what happened is that there were certain doctors and researchers, doctors probably they found that uh, people who died of heart attack had a lot of plaque deposited in the arteries, right? And there was a lot of
That
cholesterol
was
there.
then. That was then
Yeah,
during the industrialization,
yeah,
which
yeah,
started, right?
yeah. So
Okay.
there was a lot of plaque deposition in arteries, and that was causing heart stroke and death. And they also found that there was a lot of cholesterol, there. So they blame cholesterol. They thought cholesterol is responsible for your deposition of this plaque, and which is the reason for heart disease. It is like telling you that since I'll take a better example. Suppose uh, we are going for a trekking, which we generally do, right? So we're going for a trekking, we're stuck in a trek, and some government people come and save you. Probably there is sort of activity done by the government officials to pick you up from there, right? So does that mean that people who are there to pick you up, they are the reason who have pushed you in a problem, right? So cholesterol was there to repair something, right? Similarly, if you have fire on a in a building, doesn't mean that if the fireman is coming to throw water to overcome the fire, it doesn't mean that fireman caused fire, right? So again, that's a typical way of how you look at it, right? So essentially, cholesterol was there to repair it. So that's why they assume that cholesterol is the reason for heart disease. And then we develop these that's called statins. Statins suppress your cholesterol levels, right? And then again, when you suppress your cholesterol levels, you have to understand that, which I mentioned. So let me show a very uh, connected a way of these are connecting dots here, right? So essentially, when you have certain suppress your cholesterol, your cell membrane losing structure and fluidity. There's it disrupt your intracellular signaling, right? So you cannot produce nitric oxide, right? And again, when you do not produce nitric oxide, there's no vasodilation effect, there's no prevention of fat deposition, and there's no regulation of blood pressure, and you have heart disease, right? Again, when it disrupts your nitric oxide production, right? Your nitric oxide is required for regulating your glucose uptake, right? For activating GLUT4 to clear the glucose from the circulation. So obviously you have type 2 diabetes, you have dementia, right? And again, it's a mitochondrial toxicant. So essentially, uh, there are two ways. It disrupts your mitochondrial function. You would have fatigue and low energy, which generally people have when they take statins, right? Or because of because of nitric oxide production, loss of production of nitric oxide, right? Because nitric oxide controls your electron transport change, and we know that electron is, there's a flow of electrons in the mitochondria, which is again the presence of oxygen converted into ATP and water in the presence of oxygen. So probably oxygen phosphorylation is the process where mitochondria converts your food source into energy in the presence of oxygen, right? So ideally, when you're suppressing the nitric oxide production, you are uh, losing the control on the flow of electrons through electron transport chain. There would be electron leakage, there'll be loss of energy production, there could be increased chance of mitochondrial dysfunction also, right? So people who take statins have low energy, have fatigue, have developed type 2 diabetes, develop dementia, in fact, develop cardiovascular disease, right? So statins, I just been an assumption that cholesterol causes heart disease, which again I have shared, it doesn't cause it. It's all a wrong notion what we have, right? Right. So
No,
that is.
I'll share one experience here regarding statins. I mean, a lot of people are made to believe that if they do not take statins, they will die, because eventually it is a blood thinner. So they are made to believe that, because your blood is a little thick, it is thick because of the a lot of triglycerides and cholesterol. So the statins
Mhm.
will help you thin the blood, and your blood pressure will be regulated. But on the contrary, if you take more statins, you may end up having a high blood pressure. Don't you think?
Yeah, so again, high blood pressure, so regulating blood pressure is a function of nitric oxide production. When you take statin, you actually suppress your cholesterol. Your cell loses your structure and fluidity. It cannot produce nitric oxide, so there will be always elevation of blood pressure. Plus, if you really want to blood thinner, why don't you take ginger and turmeric? That's a better blood thinner rather than
Yeah,
taking
I
these
mean, I mean,
man-made
I mean,
chemicals.
there is so much of a misconception that statin is like a life-saving drug, because people are made to believe for some reason that it is going to help them by regulating the blood flow and blood pressure and all these things. But what we have experienced in our journeys with with lot of customers of hypertension and cardiovascular disease, that nutrition is going to play a massive role in regulating their bodily functions. It is not going to be, medications are not really required if you see it that way.
Mm, yeah,
Yeah.
and yeah,
So with this, Sushant, I think do you want to add some points here, or can we move to the
yeah.
next question?
There's from stating perspective, yeah, there's nothing to add. But what
Yeah.
I have shared, so stating is a complete no. Do not think. First thing is key takeaways till now. Cholesterol doesn't cause heart disease. 75 in a research, 75% of the people who were hospitalized for heart disease had normal cholesterol levels, right? So essentially, cholesterol doesn't cause heart disease. You don't need to focus on suppressing your cholesterol, right? Yeah, ApoB 100 is a relevant biomarker, right? To actually look at your risk of heart disease. But obviously, just looking at doesn't help you. But what is the intervention, right? You will again put on statins. Okay. So ideally, you need to understand the root cause of this. First thing is, another thing is you. suppression of nitric oxide is the root cause of cardiovascular disease. Now, coming on to that, right? Mouthwashes, right? Mouthwash. If you talk of mouthwash, so how many people will use mouthwash in India? A lot of them, right? So essentially, mouthwash disrupts your, this imbalances your oral microbiome, it disrupts your nitric oxide production, right? And obviously, it causes the increased risk of heart attack, right? So a complete your
So
mouthwash.
I think this is something that we have time again, said to a lot of our customers and even in our talks that, you should stop using the mouthwash and your oral hygiene practices should be optimized because the
Mm,
fluoride is again,
mm,
recently US government
mm,
has announced that
mm,
fluoride is a risk. So we should think
mm.
about reducing fluoride from overall
Yeah,
water
yeah,
content and
I was
everywhere,
coming on to
right?
that. So fluoride, toothpaste having fluoride, right, is a perfect recipe for increasing risk for heart disease and disrupting of nitric oxide production, right? Again, there are a lot of toothpaste which put fluoride in them, right? And there are certain which have removed fluoride. But again, another point, I don't want to diverge, but just to talk about the oral hygiene, right? Hydroxyapatite should be part of your toothpaste, which is a natural form of calcium, which is required for your body for a lot of remineralization and it actually mimics your saliva function, saliva production, right? Just it is required. Then you don't need to have SLS and artificial sweeteners in your toothpaste, right? This is really how this will disrupt your nitric oxide production. This could increase your risk of heart disease, right? These are things nobody talks about, right? So these are few things. And coming back to our last point of discussion before we close is the role of gut microbiome in your dysregulating of high or leading to high LDL and low HDL, right? So we have discussed about nitric oxide, but another point here which we need to discuss is again a gut derived metabolite called bitrate. Again, bitrate is a metabolite which is produced by your gut microbiome when they metabolize the fiber you consume, inulin, fiber, polyphenols, right? And they produce bitrate. Again, they that particular certain bacteria should be active and expressing right genes to produce bitrate. It doesn't mean if you have a bacteria, it doesn't mean it will be producing bitrate, right? Just tell you potential of production, right? And then whether it is actually producing or not, right? So it produces bitrate. Bitrate is said to reduce your triglycerides, said to reduce your LDL and HDL. It leads to clearance of LDL and HDL. So if there's a gut dysbiosis, if your gut is not producing enough bitrate, it could lead to higher risk of heart disease. It could lead to low clearance of LDL and VLDL, which is again could lead to overexpression of APOB 100, right? Which is again which most of the people. So that is one of the root cause why you have. So you need to get into the root cause, right? Just by knowing that if UB 100 is high, doesn't help you. What you would do, right? First, you should know why you have no POB. If UB 100 is overexpressed, right? That is the first reason. Other is indole propionic acid, right? Again, indole propionic acid is a gut-derived metabolite which your microbes produce when they metabolize tryptophan in the foods you eat. Tryptophan again is an essential amino acid, so you can find in eggs and milk and a lot of cheese products, a lot of other vegetables, right? So again, indole propionic is set to reduce your triglyceride levels, your LDL and VLDL levels, right? Okay. Third thing is the lipopolysaccharide production, LPS production again, which is an endotoxin produced by gut microbiome. We can use a lot of sugary stuff, right? Again, it is a high level of LPS is set to increase the overexpression of APOB, right? 100, right? And again, it in fact, you know, inhibits the reverse cholesterol transport process, which we discussed about reverse cholesterol transport initially during the when we started our discussion, right? So it can lead to high level of LDL and VLDL, right? And low clearance of LDL, right? So essentially that is another risk factor, right? Uh, Fourth is trimethylamine oxide, which is again a gut producing a lot of TMA, which gets into liver, gets oxidized and gets converted to TMAO, right? And again, your gut microbiome metabolizes things such as lecithin, L-carnitine, and choline, which can easily found in eggs or or kidney beans, a lot of these, or broccoli, a lot of these things, right? And again, it could produce TMA, again certain proteobacteria that produce TMA convert into EMA, which is again, which increases your overexpression of ABOB100, right? Again, is one of the reasons, right? Then precursor is again a microbes metabolizing tyrosine. Again, this is a risk factor for even chronic kidney disease, right? And it also causes oxidative stress, which is again oxidizes tetrahydrobiopterin, which is again a cofactor for production of nitric oxide. Again, it suppresses nitric oxide production, and then you have high risk of cardiovascular disease, right? And the fourth one, and I think we discussed this a couple of days back, phenylacetylglutamine, PAG, right? And phenylacetylglutamine is a your microbes consuming phenylalanine amino acid, right? And again, this is an independent risk factor for increasing your triglyceride levels and your LDL and VLDL levels, and also suppressing your APOA1, which is again a HDL sort of lipoprotein, right? So essentially, uh, these are very very important things to consider, right? And again, people who say another a bit deviation, but will say we are a protein deficient bullshit. You know, how okay, you are protein deficient. How much of phenylalanine, how much of tryptophan, how much of tyrosine you should consume? Do you know that? You may be, if you're consuming too much of each of them, you may be triggering increases of heart disease because of these metabolites which I have discussed. So all these stupid coaches and trainers who are promoting, excess protein consumption or all these things are they don't know anything about human biology, right? So do not fall for these things. This is I have today we have shared a lot of things which is very difficult to consume, right? But this is entire Bible for preventing cardiovascular disease, right? So you do not blame cholesterol for your heart disease. Cholesterol is required for various cellular processes, right? In fact, a low cholesterol could be an factor for heart disease, right? Sorry, yeah. So low cholesterol, if you don't have enough cholesterol, it can produce nitric oxide, and then you can have a high risk of heart disease. Obviously, low cholesterol is an independent risk factor for heart disease. Uh, you need to look at your oral microbiome, your gut microbiome. You need to avoid mouthwashes, avoid fluoride-laden toothpastes, right? Then you know the important aspect of all the gut-derived metabolites, you need to consume a lot of fiber, which produces bitrate, which reduces your VLDL and LDL production. You need to avoid a lot of sugary stuff, obviously, right? You need to uh, see how much of choline and L-carnitine and lecithin you're consuming. So you need to measure your biochemistry, probably measure what your gut microbiome is actually doing, not the potential, but what you have to actually measure all these function, right? So this is something which is very very important from a perspective of looking at TMAO, looking at LPS, looking at precursor, looking at indoxyl sulfate. Again, couple of things I have not covered, right? But indoxyl sulfate again is another uh, you know uh, gut-derived metabolite. So tryptophan chemical enrol propionic acid, which is anti-inflammatory, or indoxyl sulfate, which is pro-inflammatory. So indoxyl sulfate causes increases the risk of chronic kidney disease, which again causes oxidative stress, which causes heart disease, right? So these are independent risk factors. So again, do not blame your cholesterol. Cholesterol is not responsible for heart disease. Focus on improving your nitric oxide production. Balance your oral microbiome, balance your gut microbiome, right? Uh, uh, APOB, just checking your APOB and protein is not going to help you. It is not going to give you any interventions. Avoid taking statins, right? So these are the few things which I want to, conclude with our discussion.
Thank you, Sushant. This was a very extensive discussion on heart conditions, heart health, and cardiovascular disease because there have been a lot of misconceptions going on, and it has been from a long time. I mean, it's like more than 75 years have passed, and we are still following the same old theory of cholesterol, right? And I
Mhm.
think the time has come now. We should be able to identify the molecular mechanisms going beyond the triglyceride levels is more important. And this
Mm.
is what we have concluded from this discussion. So
Yeah.
thank you again.
Thank you.
And we shall be looking forward to another episode on cardiovascular disease soon. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.